Well, looks like we're going to get started with our fireside chat here. Welcome to all of you out in TV land out there. I'm Micah Elconin. I'm a mentor in residence here at Eugene. This is Spencer Holton, the founder of Trail Supply Company. We're going to spend some time talking about Spencer's experience as an entrepreneur, his company, and doing business in Eugene. We're here in front of the fire, this nice virtual fire, which I normally would make fun of, but I'm sort of grateful today in the 95-degree heat. We hope this will be enjoyable for all of you. Spencer, what is Trail Supply?
So Trail Supply is a resupply service and resource for long-distance hikers. So what that means is a lot of people don't even know what long-distance hikers are. So we work with hikers that are going out and spending anywhere from about 2 weeks all the way to 6 months of continuous hiking. Where we come in is there's a big part of that, doing these longer distance hikes, is you have to have what's called resupply packages shipped to the trail. So obviously you can only carry so much, so you hike for about 7 to 10 days, you end up running out of food and you need to have more food. Eventually you're going to need new shoes, rest of your supplies shipped to you in some form. That's not something we invented, that's what hikers were doing before we arrived. So there's a few of these really famous trails in the U.S. One of them, for example, like the Pacific Crest Trail. There's about 100 pre-existing points that you can have things shipped to. And where we come in is we have an online platform that helps hikers plan out their entire trips. You can come, tell us when you're starting, tell us where you're starting, using our custom-built piece of software. You can totally visualize your entire hike. You can see all the possible areas to have something shipped to, and then build each of those boxes using our catalog of about 500 items. All that gets submitted to us, and we go ahead and handle the logistics of making sure the boxes are packed on time, making sure they get shipped out when they need to, so that's kind of where we come in.
So just to get a sense for the real scale of the hiking we're talking about, This is not weekend trips necessarily. This is, how long is Pacific Crest Trail?
So, for example, like the PCT is over 2,000 miles.
Right.
We ship to 4 different trails in the U.S.
Yeah.
2 of the trails that we work with are over 2,000 miles. So this takes hikers months to complete.
Right. So they're resupplying dozens and dozens of times.
Yeah.
There's no way they could carry that much food on their backs.
Definitely.
So before you guys existed, what was the solution? How did people handle this?
Yeah. So, and to be clear, I mean, we don't only work with people that are spending months. I mean, the majority of our hikers are out for like 2 to 6 weeks.
Right, but enough that they still need.
Definitely, enough to where they still need more. They can't carry everything. They need to pick up something from a resupply point. So before we existed, really the only way to do it was, you would have, Micah, if you were hiking the PCT next year, you'd package up 30 boxes before you left. You'd guess exactly when and where you were going to arrive at each location, and then you'd take them to a friend or family member and say, like, hey, I am going to be doing this. I need you to store these boxes for me. Make sure you get each box to the post office in time so it gets there when I need. And you'd hope that your itinerary didn't really change.
So first I'd need to have reliable friends, which I don't have.
Which is actually how the whole idea started.
Right. But even if I had reliable friends, they'd have to be doing me a solid.
Even if you had friends, they'd have to
So I might actually be the perfect customer. I'm sure there's lots of other people like me that want to go on long hikes as well. Out of just sheer curiosity, do you have the number? How many people hike the PCT every year?
It's like the PCT. There's a few thousand that try to do the entire thing.
Yeah.
When you open it up to the amount of people that are hiking just smaller sections, which is really who we go after. Like that number greatly increases. And then when you open it up to, there's not really great data on this because there's not that many companies marketing specifically to these hikers. But there's tens of thousands of hikers just in the U.S. Most of our customers are actually international customers that are coming here from another country to hike these trails in the U.S. So, like I said, anyone that's going to be spending more than about a week hiking in the U.S. is kind of who our customer is.
Okay, that makes sense. So, how the heck did you even come up with this? What
you kind of touched on it. It's I was actually backpacking along one of the trails that we service called the Muir Trail, which is shorter. And a friend of mine said that he really wanted to do one of the longer distance hikes. He wanted to spend more than a month out, but he didn't have any friends that he trusted to store his resupply shipments for him. I thought it was kind of dumb. I was like, well, it's definitely not a reason to do this. There's you're clearly not the only person to, need some help with this very complicated, convoluted logistics problem. There's probably something out there that can help you do this. Did a lot of research into it, just saw that there was not a great solution to kind of this problem, and granted, kind of a small niche of the hiking market.
Small but growing at its stuff. I mean, it seems like every year I hear about more. It seems like more and more people are getting interested in spending a significant amount of time outdoors, doing bigger and more awesome things.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of entrepreneurship, there's sort of this moment where, like we like to say, ideas are easy, implementing is the tough part. So what was the moment when you said, hey, this good idea or this thing that might be a good idea is something actually that I want to pursue, and how did you go after that?
Yeah, and I mean, so like even when I decided that I wanted to start, I mean, when I came up with the idea, there was quite a bit of time between when I came up with it to when I decided, like, you know what, this is compelling enough, like I'm actually going to start a business. I was the one that always saw the issues in this. The way I kind of started is I was a student at the University of Oregon at the time, hadn't really been accepted to the business school yet, and came up with this idea. Through the entrepreneurship department, they kind of connected me to business pitch competitions, which was a great experience for me, essentially to go pitch your business to against other teams to judges. And for me, it was basically like, I'm good at presenting to a crowd of people. This is a good enough idea. I can just win a few $1,000s for beer money for me and my friends for like college. I mean, it was never something that I was actually going to start. Kind of the switch that happened was actually when I lost a bigger competition. I won a few. There was a final one that I ended up losing and didn't even place in. And there was some key people in the crowd, one of which was Joe Marushak, the executive director of Brain Eugene, that saw me pitch, and him and someone else pulled me aside afterwards and said, we really don't think you realize what you have here. And I said, yeah, I mean, it's a good idea, but I have no software experience. I am 20 years old and an undergrad at UO. Like, I do not have the resources to make this happen. And also it's like, I don't see the potential for this beyond long distance hikers. And through that mentorship and kind of those conversations, it really helped me open up the idea and see all of these other markets that weren't just hikers. I mean, all of these other markets that we're now kind of working to launch new products and services, and seeing Trail Supply in the bigger scope of what it could be as a logistics company was what helped me kind of decide I'm actually going to start this. Ended up applying to RAIN, being a part of that. That's how that part of the story happened.
Got it. And then since that time, I mean, I know we're friends outside of Fireside chats.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about your business and what you're working on. You seem to be someone who's really embraced the community and tried to take advantage of everything that it has to offer. So, like, what other resources have you run into that have been helpful on your journey?
I think it's funny. Like, when I first started, I didn't even really understand entrepreneurship, like what that was. Like, that it was a thing that people started companies. So I definitely had no concept that there was like some structure of resources available. So that's been huge for me. Discovering something like RAIN that gives you kind of the mentorship. The other resources that were available to me at the UO, Kate Harmon, who runs the Entrepreneurship Center, exposed me to funding opportunities that I got access to just because I was a student. Outside of that, I mean, there's lots of other, RAIN introduced me to a ton of other mentors within the business community, even just downtown, that have been crucial to my success. I mean, the other organizations such as like Starbucks, which is an organization that is more like peer-to-peer mentorship, has been awesome too. So there's definitely like resources here in the community that people that have worked and lived here their whole lives don't even know are available to them.
Right.
It's all about just kind of like showing up and deciding that you're going to do something other than some tire kicking.
It seems like you kind of fit in this really interesting niche, kind of at the point where sort of three of Oregon's biggest sectors sort of meet. Your tech, your food, and your kind of outdoor adventure. And my sense is that a lot of people resonate with what you're doing because I'm a food guy and I go, oh, that's cool. I like snacks. I'm interested in this. But then folks from the tech community can see it and go, oh, this is really interesting from a software perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like you've been able to leverage kind of every kind of aspect of what you're doing.
Definitely.
So as you keep working on this, or even prior to, maybe the way I should put it is, tell me what success looks like for you. Like, help me understand like what is this all about for you long term? With Trail Supply, but even outside of Trail Supply.
Yeah, and I guess those are different things, right? So it's like, I think success for me, like if I think about like me as a person, success for me at this point in my life is all about, so I'm 22. I have learned everything about me has kind of changed in the past year and a half, 2 years since I started this journey essentially. But I guess success for me, I can best state as just being, it's all about kind of me and my personal learning. So it's like I have everything that the amount I have learned in the past 2 years is just insane. I mean, I remember like even after like in the middle of rain, meeting with like a lawyer to incorporate like the business, and I found my notes the other day on the top line was like, what is an LLC? And I mean it's stuff like that I look back at things like that, and I look back at even when I graduated Rain, and I had no clear concept of like, it's clear that technology is going to be a key component of this. I don't even know what software development really means. It's like being at that point a year and a half ago to like now working with partners that are developers and us overseeing like developers that do work for us and understanding like what that looks like and how that works. I mean, so I guess taking it back to like the original question, success for me is all about like at this point in my life, all about maximizing my ability to learn. Every decision I kind of make with myself personally is, I know what my learning curve is right now. I know how quickly I'm learning things. If I make this decision, will this accelerate that learning, or will I be kind of more stagnant? It's all about, for me at this point, kind of just like, how do I continue to like accelerate the learning? That obviously a different answer than like what is success for Trail Supply.
Sure.
That's more for me.
Got it. So I mean that kind of confirms one of my, what I felt that way about doing new things. Like it's kind of the secret sauce for like the real learning in life, the kind of in between the lines stuff. And it forces you to explore some of those harder things. So speaking of learning, one of the best ways to learn is to blow it. Something tells me somewhere along the way you've probably blown it a few times, or things have really blown up in your face.
Yeah.
Tell me a good one.
The best failure I've had. The biggest mistake I've probably made with Trail Supply especially it was actually our very first package, right? So we launched a little over a year ago, actually, like being live. So in the early spring of last year, which was really late in the season, kind of in the grand scheme of things.
The season for hiking.
Yeah. And like we should have, but things happened, and we were all still learning. It was very early on. We were kind of still testing things. But I remember our first order came in, and I was so excited. It was everything had worked. They found us organically through our resources, they created an account, built their trip, checked out, and like someone we didn't know had like paid us to do this. Like being
a legit customer.
Being back in that time, like that was the dream. Like, we hadn't even proved that like there was someone out there willing to pay for this type of service. We had that. I had that box. Order came in. It was like $180. Wasn't relatively small for us. I had that box packed for like a week, sitting at my desk. I mean, I knew the exact date that box had to be shipped out. I had the label on it ready. Like it was on a Sunday that it had to arrive. I had to ship it the week before on a Saturday so it could get there before the hiker. So I remember walking to the post office, came in Saturday, grabbed the package from my desk, walking to the post office, and I wondered, like, okay, when is this customer actually starting? So I logged in their account from my phone, and I said, this is weird, like they're starting today. And this box is getting shipped to a point that's 40 miles north of the Mexican border, so it's 40 miles into the trail. Why are they taking 8 days to hike 40 miles?
Right.
The box isn't supposed to be there till next Sunday. Went in a little bit further and saw that the box was supposed to be delivered like the next day, like Sunday.
Oh, you were like a week off.
I was a total week off. This was Saturday. The box was supposed to be picked up by the customer on Sunday, like the next day. And there's no way any shipping service could have gotten it there like on a Sunday in the afternoon. It wasn't possible. And it was figured out what the reason was. It was total like error on our part in getting things synced up between our systems and everything. We figured that out later, but it was definitely a moment where it's like 12 o'clock on a Saturday and I'm kind of standing outside at like downtown Eugene, like what the fuck do I do? I mean, this is like the core of our business. Like if we can't actually deliver a package, our very first package, like what are we doing?
Right.
You know? That was at 12. At 2 p.m., I was at the Eugene airport, flying, I had a ticket in my hand to San Diego, holding this box, my laptop, flew to San Diego, got there around 9 p.m. on Saturday, rented a car, which is really hard to do when you're 20 years old. Stayed on my friend's floor that I hadn't seen like 6 years that goes to school in San Diego. Woke up the next morning, 6 a.m. on Sunday, had to go to Walmart to buy like the sunscreen and peanut butter that TSA confiscated, buy more tape to repackage the package, and then like drove to the middle of nowhere 40 miles north of the Mexican border, like literally hand deliver this package. And that was, I did not tell anyone that story for a long time. I was so embarrassed. And I still, like, it makes me cringe.
Did the hiker know that the founder of the company flew down to hand deliver it?
He had no idea.
So you played it off like you were like,
I left, like, the shipping label on there. Because, like, I wanted it to look like, and I was so scared. It was our first package. I was so scared. Luckily, like, that's never happened since then. Like, we've shipped, like, many, many more packages since then, like, without that being an issue.
It would probably throw your margins off a little bit.
It did throw our margins off a little bit on that one.
Oh my God. Well, it definitely, I'm just, getting stuff confiscated at TSA must have really been insult to injury.
Yeah. It was.
Did you just kind of put your head down and just, like, accept it at that point? Were you so deep in the...
The funniest part of the whole process, I was like, I was freaking out, having a heart attack the entire time. My connecting flight was in San Jose, and I walked off of the plane in San Jose, and there's like just a big banner that's all about like welcome to the Silicon Valley, like the heart of entrepreneurship, the most successful companies in the world. I'm literally standing there like holding my box of like from my like startup, and thought I was like, I'm a total failure. And so that was the first time I was like, all right, this is
it's kind of the real side of entrepreneurship. Yeah. Oh my God. So that actually makes me think of sort of another issue that's interesting to me, at least. Other people might not find this interesting, so apologies if this is boring to everyone who's still watching. I've worked in distribution. I used to run sales for an organic produce distribution company. And before I had that job, I sort of looked at distribution as this sort of just simple service that, someone had to do it, but in terms of the nuts and bolts of getting it done, it was just a little bit of heavy lifting and make a little money and you're on your way.
Yeah.
I learned pretty quickly that distribution is like incredibly complex. The logistics that you have to manage and optimize are at a scale, even in a smaller company, that are hard to get your head wrapped around. And it sounds like what you were experiencing was just one small example of how easily things can go from, this should be pretty simple, to a complete shit show.
Yeah.
So, and it seems like there's a number of companies across the country, but even just in Eugene, going after that. You, the folks at Bitcork, Local Food Marketplace, you're all sort of trying to figure out how to streamline this seemingly simple process that turns out from a software perspective is actually incredibly complex. So wrap on that for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few different things. Like one, like from our perspective, like there's us as a company, like the difficulties that we have. There's then like how difficult it is even for like our customers, that it's such a pain point for them that they pay us our service is expensive.
Right.
Like, they pay us quite a bit more money than if they were just doing it themselves, because it's hard, it's difficult.
Right.
So I mean, from our perspective, I mean, even like we're more sophisticated now. Like when we first started out, it was literally like me every day at Walmart like buying things for our customers and being like, well, they don't have blueberry Cliff Bars. Like, what do I do now? My customer ordered blueberry Cliff Bars. I mean, it was those issues to like now the issues we have are like, so like our distributor, like they're out of like for the season, like we need like 20 of these backpacking meals and they're out for the season of this. And it's like back order times like are this period of time. And it's like does that conflict like with our shipping? So it's definitely like I said, I think this is probably something that me and you would have more fun talking about than like everybody else because it's more.
Is that your way of saying stupid question?
No, it's my way of saying that. It's my way of stopping me from getting too into the weeds on it. But,
you don't get too technical.
Yeah, but it's definitely like a pain point. It's something that like I didn't think it would be hard. Like, which is like funny to say. Like, I didn't think that it would be. I didn't ever imagine like I would have to think about like how are we going to purchase like $10,000 of like these 5 types of backpacking meals. Like I didn't think that was, and if we did, I was like, oh, if we run into that issue, like that'll be easy to solve. So I think it's definitely like the whole distribution part of it has been really hard for me to learn because I had no experience.
Mm-hmm.
From our customer's perspective, I mean, it's just like if you think about like literally what it takes to like how many calories do I need to eat between like box 1 and box 2,
right?
And then how do I go out and buy all of that stuff, and then how do I package it and then separate it into 30 different boxes? I mean, it was such a problem for them that they, like I said, they pay to use our software so they can visualize it better, and they pay us to do it for them because a lot of our people are wealthier individuals that work full time and they want to go out and have this experience. They don't want to spend a month preparing for it, just the resupply part. There's so many other preparations, so they're willing to pay us to do it for them.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. So I'm kind of curious, what are like some of the more popular food items? What snacks are people really digging into?
I mean, it's a lot of it's stuff it's like I won't get through like the stuff you'd expect. The weirder stuff is probably like, I'll have people say, oh, well, you have strawberry Pop-Tarts, which I like resisted adding. Like, we need unflavored or unfrosted Pop-Tarts. It's like,
like strawberry's not going to work. I'm going to frost things there. It's going to blow.
We need strawberry unfrosted Pop-Tarts. And it's like from our perspective, it's like just use the strawberry Pop-Tarts. It's like, why is this a big deal? But when you look at, I mean, there's like the guy that requested unflavored or unfrosted Pop-Tarts, and I was like, this is so dumb. He ended up spending, I mean, he's probably spent over $2,500 with us just in the past like 2 months.
On just Pop-Tarts?
Yeah. So it's like even things like that sound so dumb to me, where I'm like, just use what we have. Where it's like, if he requested 3 items and I could have said no to all of them, would that have been like the straw that broke the camel's back? Or
right.
would he have just like figured out something else?
Right.
So it's like we kind of navigating through like those in one-off items that we don't really have supplier relationships set up for, something like that. That's been something like we've had to learn and grow.
That's interesting. Yeah. It makes sense for your business model. You are a premium service, so it's kind of like, it sounds like you guys more or less put out there, you want it, we'll try to find it, we'll do the best we can.
Yeah.
So, you could say, next time, spitballing here, the frosting adds a few calories, and you're really looking for the calories while you're on the trail. It might save them a little weight.
That is the funnier thing, is like when people ask for like the low-calorie version of something.
And you're like, let me just tell you what this is going to be like after you've hiked a few hundred miles. Like, you're not going to be thinking about your low-cal diet anymore.
Yeah.
Do you send them like a little bonus of like a packet of coconut oil or something, and be like, you can just drizzle this over everything and maybe up the calories?
We seriously sell so many packets of olive oil.
The little like single serves.
Single serve. We sell they come in like a pack of 15 single serves, and I've probably shipped out hundreds of packets of olive oil.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, those spats are helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can stop talking about snacks. I'm going to need one soon if we do that. My next question was about customers. Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit, but like who are your customers? I think that's interesting.
Yeah. So when I first started, when I first pitched this, it was always kind of, we're going after people that are inexperienced. So they saw the movie Wild. They don't know anything about this. They've never done anything like this, and they need some help with it. So that was who our original customer was. Then we figured out, well, this is going to be a premium service, and we started saying, so we're going after like the wealthy and then the inexperienced. And then right after we started launching, I started looking through like where our traffic was coming through and eventually who was paying us. And about now, I guess we're in our second season. So far this year, about 60% of our customers have been from another country. So it's like they're foreigners that they got a visa to come to the U.S. for 3 months to hike. They are from China or Australia, England, and they physically don't have an alternative. So what they were doing before we existed was you literally had someone sending a dozen packages, paying international shipping fees on each one, and so we didn't even realize the international customer was going to be where our primary source of revenue until after we launched. So that's been really interesting because they really are. They have a very high willingness to pay because it's something they don't have many alternatives for.
Right.
And there's a lot of them that have reached out to us and said, like, we've always wanted to come spend a month on the Appalachian Trail, but we didn't have a way. We were concerned about like we wouldn't have food to do this. Right. So that's been cool to kind of see our customer focus shift a little bit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, so the process of doing something new,
yeah,
of striking out into the world and trying to create your own adventure, if you will. When I've done that, it always has had a really significant impact on the way I look at the world.
Yeah.
And I think that might be one of the most interesting things about being an entrepreneur is the way it shapes not just your financial reality, but just the way you interact with the community and the world around you. Like you sort of found this magic at an earlier age than some people do. Like how has it changed the way you operate, how you look at the world around you?
I mean, I think I said earlier, like I am a fundamentally different person than I was before I started this, and it was because a really good parallel is if I didn't kind of come down this path, I would have been graduating in the spring here, and all of my friends were doing that, right? So the mindset of everyone else that I was in school with, all of my friends were graduating, it's kind of like spring term, which financial analyst position, entry-level internship are we applying for?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that whole concept of like, where do I go to exchange my time at some big established company, like for money? Like that's the mindset. And it's like that's what people do. That was always my mindset. I couldn't imagine going and doing that. So like we're getting back in that structure right now. I mean, it's just like my thought process and like that not even being like an option for me right now, like something that I would consider. I think that if I wouldn't have come down this path, there's a 100% likelihood like I would be an intern or an entry level financial analyst at like one of like the big financial firms or something, like
right.
or some independent one here in Eugene. I mean, like that was my goal. That sounds so miserable to me. I think you just look, and I'm not like a beacon of success. I'm not a millionaire. Like I'm not like, it's not. I'm not saying like, oh, they're so much better off than I am. Like they probably all make more money than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I look and evaluate opportunities in such a different way than I used to, and I think about kind of that question earlier about like success to me is about learning right now. If I hadn't gone through this, success to me would be about like, am I making 50K here or 60K there? Like,
mm-hmm.
So I think that's just like a good. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And in terms of friends, like,
do I have any?
Well, I mean, we're neither of us are going to have friends when this is done, probably. But no, I mean, it's being an entrepreneur is oftentimes a lonely process, and I can only imagine what it would be like being an undergrad and the kind of general culture that folks are involved in. And you were, while you may have tried to continue to participate in that, I know for a fact that there were many late nights that you were sitting over there at a desk slamming away at the keys when in the dark with no one else here.
Yeah.
And so, like, how's that being, when everyone else is at the frat party and you're slaving away trying to figure out how to deliver packages to places all over the place?
Yeah, so actually the first time that I ever talked to Joe about starting this, when he was helping me realize kind of the potential of things and talking to me about like the process, he actually said to me, he said, this is going to be an incredibly lonely process if you want to go through this. That didn't make any sense to me. Like I was like, well, I have friends now. Like it's not like my friends are just going to disappear and go away. Like, what are you talking about with this process? And it's not that all of a sudden like I don't have friends and like no one wants to talk to me because I'm like this totally like terrible person. It's more just along the lines of like we just look and think about things in a little bit different way. It's like when there's weeks where there was a lot of times like this year, for example, where you brought up college and it's like you want to go and do like it's spring break and like you want to go for the week down to Cabo because that's what everyone's doing. And when you tell your friends like I gotta work, the closest thing that they can associate to that is, well, why don't you just take a week off work? Like just tell your job you're not going to be there. And for me, it's like spring break. Like that's when things are ramping up for us. Like, yes, I can not work for a week. Like I'm the only one that I'm hurting. Like me, like the other stakeholders in my business. Like that's who's hurting. It's like it's not, and that's not really something that you can. When you think about like a startup and being an owner of a startup, as comparable to like a job that you can just request time off for, like those are very different things. So like it's lonely from that aspect because it's more just people if you've never been through it, you don't really have a clear understanding of like what it's like.
Right.
But yeah,
where the priorities are on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely.
Interesting. All I got left here is tell me what's on tap. So, and we can do it in two parts. Let's start with, we just talked about you, so let's talk about Trail Supply. What's on the horizon for Trail Supply?
Yeah, so I mean, me and my partners, like, we never started Trail Supply saying, like, long distance hikers, these people that go out for more than 2 weeks, like, this is $1 billion, like, business that we're about to build. Mm-hmm. That was never kind of the focus. More of what our thinking was we see lots of different applications for this logistics problem that we're solving. You get to a place, you've built a box of items that you want there when you get there. Mm-hmm. And you kind of think about it from that model, and it's not only, it's not that you want like 3 packs of things that you can kind of buy on Amazon or something like that. You want a very curated selection of items somewhere on a certain date, and you're going to say, on this date, I need to pick it up. That model, there's lots of different applications to. Right. We've identified a ton of them. Everyone comes up to me every week and says, like, I get a new one every week. Someone told me last week, I was doing a big sailing trip off the coast of the East Coast. Like, I wish I would have like been able to like have what I want at each one of the docks. Yeah. So like, there's lots of different new applications for that concept. We've always identified those. We didn't start with long distance hikers because we said like this is the biggest, fastest growing one. We started there because we saw that there's a clear problem. We can very easily, inexpensively launch a solution to this problem that we think is going to be valuable. And we can pretty much get into this space when pretty quickly, have revenue coming in, kind of set up operations here, do a lot of learning, because none of us have really kind of done anything like this concept before, and then take that learning and kind of apply it to other things. We're in the middle of our 2nd season and already kind of have our sights on and are working on developing other products like other markets and things like that. So we know we started small. We started really small and really focused, but it was purposeful.
Right. So does that mean that, I guess I'm curious, are you going to, with all the work out ahead, are there any moments that Spencer Holton gets to go out and reconnect with the reason he got started with this? Do you get to spend any time out in the woods in Oregon?
Yeah, anymore? It's really funny. Like, I have had multiple customers say to me, like, I hope we get to see you out on the trail. And I'm like,
you're just out there every day, like from your laptop?
I'm like, yeah, like, do you hope that you see me out on the trail? Because, like, then no one, like, who do you want to be, like, talking to when you have an issue, like, when your order doesn't get submitted? Like, you really don't want me out on the trail. You want me, like, back here making sure that, like the thing you paid me to do is actually getting done.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, the short answer is yes. Like, I still do get to go out and, like, have fun. Like, this past winter, like, when I'm a little bit more available, like I am a big skier, so I can spend a lot of time doing that. With that said, I mean, I am in the first 2 years of a startup. I would be lying to you if I said, like, yeah, like, I have just as much free time. Like, I'm done. It's a 9 to 5, and, like, I have just as much free time as I did before. Like, kind of a believer that, like, if you're going to go down this path and bring other people onto your company and have other people working towards this vision, like, the early years, like, it's gonna kind of suck. Like, you're gonna put a lot of work into it. Like, you're doing it with the expectation it's going to deliver quite a bit of value to you and the other stakeholders in your business, like, in the long term. But it's like, I'm in my first 2 years here. It's like it's not going to be. I'm not going to be having as much free time for all those things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That makes sense. Do we have any? No.
Cool.
No. Should we sign off? No one has any questions? Anyone in this wonderful production crew we have here?
Well, cool.
Spencer,
Thanks,
it's been a
Micah.
pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the fire with you.
Yeah, it's a little bit hot in here.
It is warm. Yeah. All right. Ta-ta.